If every law you don't like is tyranny, congratulations, you just turned the Second Amendment into a feelings-based policy. There's a clip going around of a guy saying he's liberal, watched ICE enforcement videos, bought his first AR-15, and decided this is what the Second Amendment is for. Let's play it.
I'm generally a pretty liberal person, but when I saw videos of ICE jumping out of unmarked vehicles and nabbing people off the street, that's when I actually bought my first AR-15. So I'm pretty new to this, but you know, the Second Amendment's for all of us, and now I'm seeing videos of Black Panthers out in Minneapolis, you know, chasing down ICE and other police and stuff. I think that's what it's all about. You know, we're facing tyranny right now, and I want to be prepared for if that stuff comes to my neighborhood.
What have you sort of thought about it? I've seen the same videos you're talking about. I've seen some of the stuff in person that you're kind of talking about. I've seen some people on the right wing take issue when the left arms up.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the amendments to the Constitution are for everybody. You know, we're all American. We all have those rights, and we should all be using them. That's my opinion on it.
All right, here's where people get uncomfortable because I agree with parts of this and completely reject the logic behind the rest. Yes, the Second Amendment is for everybody, left, right, liberal, conservative. Nobody in the gun community honestly cares. Nobody is gatekeeping you. Nobody is mad you bought a gun. What people do care about is why you think that gun suddenly exists in your life as a constitutional signal. Because buying an AR-15 doesn't magically turn enforcement you don't like into tyranny. Being uncomfortable isn't oppression. Disagreeing with policy isn't losing your rights. And watching a clip online doesn't mean the Constitution just activated like a Batman signal. That's not constitutional awareness. That's political adrenaline with a rifle-shaped conclusion. And I'm gonna say this bluntly. A lot of people right now are starting to cosplay as gun owners. You're throwing a gun on like it's an outfit. You're wearing the aesthetic of gun ownership so you can throw a tantrum about something you don't like and feel edgy. That's not the Second Amendment. That's not responsibility. I'm glad you found the Second Amendment. I'm glad you're exercising your right. I'm not mad at the gun. I'm mad at the story you're telling yourself about what it's for. Now look, if you're new to firearms, I actually want you here. But owning a gun isn't just about buying it. It's about training, education, and safety. I hope you're getting range time. I hope you're learning how your firearm actually works. I hope you're taking gun safety seriously. And I especially hope you're protecting your hearing, because once you lose it, you don't get it back. And that's why I always wear my AKT1 blackout wireless Bluetooth in-ear hearing protection every time I go to the gun range. I call them the AirPods for shooters. They protect your hearing, but they also let you take phone calls, listen to music, and hear what's going on around you with active noise blocking and 6-time hearing enhancement. You get awareness and protection at the same time. So I'm gonna put a link in the description section so you can check out the AKT1 blackouts for yourself. Protect your hearing and protect your future. Here's the part I actually want to slow down and sit with, because this is where people start confusing rights with impulse and principle with emotion. There is a massive difference between owning a gun and understanding what that right is actually for. A lot of people come into gun ownership through fear. Their car gets broken into, crime spikes in their neighborhood. They realize the police aren't gonna be there in time. That is normal. That's often the first step toward personal responsibility. But there's a different thing happening when someone buys a rifle because they're emotionally charged and want to send a message. That's not responsibility, that's reaction. And responsible gun owners understand something most people don't, something that actually takes time to learn. The hardest part of gun ownership is restraint. If gun owners were actually the problem, if guns themselves were the issue, you wouldn't be debating it. You'd know. The evidence would be undeniable. It isn't. And here's where we need to be honest, because this is where nuance lives. Yes, there are absolutely situations where law enforcement screws up. There are moments where officers act aggressively, improperly, even unconstitutionally in the moment. That happens. We've all seen it. There are court cases built around it. There are settlements built around it. There are departments that have had to change policy because of it. Acknowledging that reality does not weaken the Constitution, it strengthens it. But here's the line people keep blowing past. A bad moment does not equal systemic tyranny. An unconstitutional action by an officer in the field does not automatically mean the entire constitutional system has collapsed. That distinction matters because the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence were not written for moments where the system is strained or imperfect. They were written for moments where the system is irreparably broken. The Declaration doesn't say, anytime the government does something I don't like, grab a rifle. It explicitly warns against acting over light and transient causes. That phrase is doing a lot of work. It means frustration isn't enough, discomfort isn't enough, anger isn't enough, even wrongdoing by itself isn't enough. The Second Amendment was never meant to be a protest accessory. It was never meant to be political intimidation, and it was never meant to turn outrage into armed fantasy. It exists as a last safeguard when courts no longer function, when elections no longer matter, when peaceful correction is impossible, and we are not there. That doesn't mean everything is fine. It doesn't mean mistakes don't happen. It doesn't mean abuses shouldn't be challenged. It means there is still a system to fight inside of. Courts, elections, legislation, due process. That's not weakness, that's constitutional design. And here's the irony nobody wants to acknowledge. The same people who usually say the gun is the problem are now saying, well, it wasn't the gun, it was that person or that officer or that agent. Congratulations, you just discovered the argument gun owners have been making for decades. Now responsibility matters, now intent matters, now behavior matters. And that's exactly the point. Because once you redefine tyranny as any law I don't like, you erase the difference between lawful authority and actual oppression. Once you do that, the Second Amendment stops being a safeguard. It becomes a prop. And that is dangerous, not just for the country, but for the right itself. Because rights survive discipline, not impulse. So when I hear someone say, I bought an AR because I saw enforcement I didn't like, my response isn't anger, it's concern. Because if your entry point into the Second Amendment is adrenaline, you're missing the most important part of the responsibility that comes with it. The Second Amendment is for everyone, but it demands judgment, it demands restraint, it demands an understanding of when escalation is justified and when it isn't. Freedom isn't proven by how fast you reach for a rifle. It's proven by whether you still understand when not to.
One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.